Florida Rural Legal Services, Andrea Ortega is here.
Perfect.
Let's bump you in. First time on the show, hopefully it won't be your last. Andrea Ortega, Florida Rural Legal Services. Now, you're a manager there for the migrant department. What does that entail?
Sure. So I'm the managing director for the Migrant Farm Worker unit. And that crucial part, that middle description is really important. We essentially are a statewide unit that helps migrant farm workers with their legal issues. And whether it be education, advice, or representation, we do our best to enforce the rights of migrant farm workers.
When I think about migrant farm workers, I'm thinking, okay, we don't see people farming every day. We may not realize it, but the agriculture industry, the migrant farming business is booming. There are a lot of people out there working in rural areas that we never see. Can you expound on that?
Absolutely. So I grew up in one of the major cities and areas. I grew up in West Palm Beach and kind of was in that area around, so I didn't know the extent of how rural Florida really is, but the agricultural industry and really the rural areas are large. I've seen parts of Florida I didn't even know existed.
That's right.
If you drive through Belle Glade, you see the sugarcane fields, you see corn, you see cotton, you see orchards of oranges, you see strawberries, blueberries. It's all over. All you have to do is go a little bit to the left or to the right, and you are bound to hit large agricultural areas.
I'm glad I got a chance to bring that up, Andrea, because in my banking days as a business loan corporate lender, I had clients who did citrus. And so when I would go out into the rural area to visit their factories and all that, so all these oranges, all of these lemons, all of these people working, the whole process and how they pick the fruit from the trees and all of that. I'm like, man, all this is out here. The average person doesn't even know that exists.
Absolutely. It's not something that you see on a day-to-day basis, but we encounter agricultural every day when we have our fruit salad in the morning and all of those things. And the reason why we are able to get them so fresh is because our industry is so close by. And so a lot of the times people don't really ask where their food comes from, but it's really important to keep that in mind so that we eat kind of consciously, not only for the kind of food that we're eating, but who's picking those fruits. Someone had to do that.
And there's some special needs in terms of legal services for migrant workers specific.
Right.
Go ahead.
Absolutely. So our unit pretty much focuses on those special needs you discussed. Now, what does that mean? How is a farm worker different than, your other low-wage worker in, let's say, Lee County? Well, over the course of history, they've encountered special circumstances and special obstacles. And because of these obstacles, we have quite often specialized areas of the law that help those workers in particular. And so, for example, any farm worker that were to come to our unit has to have a status-based problem. What does that mean? It means that whatever legal problem they have, they don't necessarily qualify for our services when you have a foreclosure problem. That has nothing to do with being a farm worker. It has to do with your status as a farm worker and being in the fields and being exposure to pesticides, not having your wages paid on time, traveling, and perhaps being involved in a work-related accident, those kinds of situations.
I see. Now, who do you consider a farm worker migrant?
Sure. So because we're a statewide program, we have to take a lot of things into consideration. They're migrant farm workers and they're seasonal farm workers. Migrant essentially means that they have to travel a long distance. So we have workers from Belle Glade who go all the way up to Georgia, North Carolina, New Jersey, and then they come back to their home area. That's what the migrant aspect of it is. Seasonal means citrus, whenever that particular season is for whatever crop that they're doing. Now, the farm worker, ordinarily you think of, it depending on the law you're dealing with, it's anything that has to do with agricultural work, which means you're the people who harvest the fruit, but it also means reforestry workers, the ones who gather the pine straw and do that particular industry. So really anything that has to do with harvesting of crops.
Now you provide these migrant people, workers, with free legal advice. Expound on that.
Absolutely. Because we're a part of Florida Rural Legal Services and we are a funded by LSC, we are able to provide free legal services for this particular group of people. However, there are some qualifications that you have to abide by in order to qualify for our services. For example, the income requirements have to be a certain amount, usually poverty, a percentage of the poverty, and again, the status-based designation. It's a farm worker problem, and so all of that gets figured out when they call our hotline. We have Spanish, English, and Haitian Creole available for people to call in and just ask questions and see if they qualify, and if not, we try our best to help.
And we have that information appearing on the screen, your website, and your hotline number.
Wonderful.
Do you go to their locations or do they meet you somewhere?
Both. That, to me, is the best part of the job, and why I chose to move here in particular, where our headquarters is based. We get the most wonderful part of the actual work, the legal work. I'm not stuck in an office 9 to 5 just filling out paperwork, researching. That is a big part of the job, but a lot of it, I get to go out to Blountstown, Florida. I get to go out to Arcadia, Belle Glade, all over, and actually go to the migrant labor camps
So you don't just sit in your office with your fancy suit on?
Absolutely not. This is a special occasion for you. I decided to dress up to come on the show.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Outstanding. What does it do for you personally I know you're a lawyer and all of that, manager, but what does it do for you personally to know that you're helping some people who need this help?
Well, I was fortunate enough to know that this type of area of law existed early on in my career, and so it has always been a goal to practice this particular law, and it really just helps when you're, having the long days to know that you're helping people who are just truly in need and are truly just humble and appreciative of all the work, and the obstacles are so large that you're facing sometimes being legal services and having a population that moves around and has special needs, that feeling of doing something good just gets you through the hard days, and it really sometimes doesn't feel like work. So
where's your office located?
Fort Myers, Florida. It is in so it's in the bigger Florida Rural Legal Services building, and we're right with the rest of the attorneys there.
What are some legal problems that you find common amongst the migrant workers?
Sure. A lot of the times we see that workers don't understand the concept of hourly wages. They think that all of the work is by piece. So what does that mean? That means they get paid per pound, per box, per whatever the industry practices. So when we come on board and say, hey, you get paid by the hour regardless of how good the crop is, their mind is blown. They're like, no, you're a liar. Like, what are you doing? And so that's one of the education pieces, really the most important part of our work, I think. And that we see often. Everywhere we go, we see some kind of wage issue. Another thing that we see is, unfortunately, workplace accidents. A lot of that we encounter, and discrimination. Unfortunately, we see a lot of workplace discrimination that we try to assist workers with.
Now, when people tap into your services, how long can they take advantage of your services? Their expiration date, or just as long as they need it?
As long as they need it, in particular to their legal problem. If it's our cases last for years because they're in the federal realm usually, and so what we'll do is, as long as they maintain in contact, which is difficult. We have clients from Mexico, Honduras, New Jersey, Georgia, Belle Glade, Immokalee, all over. They often don't have phones. So as long as they call me, which they know they have to do at least once a month, we're more than happy to help.
Final question, do you handle discrimination as well?
Yes, we do. Depending on particular circumstances, if it's farm worker based or status based, we will determine whether or not we can handle it, but that is one of our areas.
I want you to take a look into that camera, take about 15 seconds and say something in Spanish to somebody out there who may not understand all this great English we're speaking here.
Fantastic. Hola, me llamo Andrea Ortega de Servicios Legales de la Florida Rural. Yo soy una abogada que ayuda a los trabajadores agrícolas con los problemas del empleo. Si tiene cualquier pregunta, cualquier cosa, puede llamar a nosotros. El número va a estar abajo, como me comentó el señor Pitts, y él dijo que nosotros nos podemos llamar a cualquier pregunta, cualquier cosa que necesitan.
Whatever Andrea said, I agree with it 100%.
I should have taken the opportunity to commit you to something now.
Okay.
I lost it.
Let's bump you out. I like it. You're cool. Thanks for joining us here and keep up the good work, okay?
Thank you for inviting me.
All right, stay right there. The saying goes on this particular show, for those who say it can't be done, they're usually interrupted by those like Andrea and all the fine people over there at Florida Rural Legal Services who are doing it. Thanks for joining us here on the award-winning Lee Pitts Live, and we'll see you next week.
Lee Pitts Live is a Lee Pitts Enterprise production.